Hello there, good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of China Now. My name is Stanley Kwabla Arku, sitting in for your regular host, Makiza Michelin Latifa. Today's show promises to be very informative as always. Let's begin with China Currents, where Kris brings you the most trending stories that made headways in China this week. The conversation will include updating you on the latest events in the UN as China has commenced its role as the rotating president of the United Nations Security Council on November 1. Also on China Currents, the Chinese Ministry of State's Security has announced a widespread crackdown on illegal foreign weather monitoring activities that pose risks to national security. Now, according to experts, meteorological information could expose military and state secrets. Kris will tell you more about this shortly. On a lighter note, there will be updates about this year's Halloween celebration in Shanghai, which had a creative Chinese spine. Let's get started.
China Currents is a weekly news talk show from China to the world. We cover viral news about China every week and also give you the newest updates on China's cutting-edge technologies. Let's get started. Hi, welcome to China Currents. I'm Kris. Let's start this episode by updating you the latest events in UN. China has commenced its role as a rotating president of the United Nations Security Council starting from November 1st. Ambassador Zhang Jun, China's permanent representative to the UN, chaired the Council's internal consultations, successfully passing the working plan for the month. Zhang emphasized that the Israeli-Palestinian situation is the most important issue on the agenda for this month's Security Council discussions. He stressed the urgent need to promote a ceasefire, prevent further civilian casualties, avert a larger-scale humanitarian disaster, and prevent the escalation of the conflict. As the president of the Security Council, China will respond to the international community's call and work for relevant parties to promote responsible and meaningful collective action by the Security Council. The presidency of the Security Council rotates among the 15 member states on a monthly basis. China last held the presidency in August 2022, and during the previous presidency of Brazil, none of the draft resolutions related to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict were adopted. The closest to success was a resolution drafted by Brazil, which received 12 votes in favor, 2 abstentions, but was vetoed by the United States, citing the so-called absence of Israel's right to self-defense in the text. On the same day, Wednesday, Foreign Minister Wang Yi had a phone conversation with the Omani Minister of Foreign Affairs, Badr Abu Saidi, as scheduled, exchanging views on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Abu Saidi highly praised China's consistent call for restraint among all parties involved in the conflict, its support for a ceasefire, and its vote in favor of the Arab-led resolution at the UN General Assembly. He expressed his expectation for China to play an important role as the president of the Security Council this month. Wang Yi stated that China supports the prompt convening of a more authoritative, inclusive, and effective international conference to promote the Israeli-Palestinian issue's return to the track of the two-state solution. He emphasized that the root cause of the Palestinian issue lies in the failure to restore and safeguard the legitimate rights and interests of the Palestinian people. And a way to resolve this issue is by implementing the two-state solution. Next up, Governor of California, Gavin Newsom, had just ended his week-long trip to China in Shanghai on November 29th by launching a new climate partnership with the city and touring Tesla's Shanghai Gigafactory. Starting from October 23rd, Newsom's extensive itinerary took him across various economic powerhouses in China, including Beijing, Shanghai, Guangdong, Jiangsu, and Hong Kong. During his stay in China, Newsom held meetings with Chinese President Xi Jinping, Vice President Han Zheng, and Foreign Minister Wang Yi. Newsom's visit to China has yielded significant progress in advancing climate action and cooperation, promoting economic development and tourism, and strengthening cultural ties. California holds prominence in terms of population, politics, economy, and culture. It is home to the largest Chinese American community in the United States, and it has long served as a vital gateway for US-China cooperation. Many analysts believe that the outcome of Newsom's visit will serve as a model for other US states seeking to enhance their ties with China. Next up, let's take a look at another diplomatic event. On November 2nd, The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the People's Republic of China has announced that the agreement between the government of China and the government of Kazakhstan on mutual visa exemption is set to take effect on November 10, 2023. Under this agreement, Chinese citizens holding regular passports for official business, ordinary passports, and travel documents, as well as Kazakhstani citizens holding ordinary passports and return certificates, will be granted visa exemption privileges. This exemption applies to various purposes, including entry, exit, or transit for private affairs, business activities, tourism, medical visits, international transportation, and transit. Qualified individuals will be allowed a single stay of up to 30 days, commencing from the date of entry. Additionally, the accumulated duration of their stays within every 180-day period should not exceed 90 days. Next up, on October 31st, the return capsule of the Shenzhou 16 manned spacecraft successfully landed at the Dongfeng landing site. Taikonauts Zheng Haipeng, Zhu Yangzhu, and Gui Haichao were in good physical condition. The Shenzhou 16 manned spacecraft was launched into orbit on May 30, 2023 from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. It then docked with the Tianhe core module to form an assembly. The three Taikonauts stayed in orbit for 154 days, during which they carried out one extravehicular activity and a fourth space lecture for the Chinese space station and coordinated the completion of several cargo uploading tasks for the space station. This was the first manned spacecraft mission since China's manned space program entered the space station application development stage. With close cooperation between the Taikonauts crew and the ground research personnel, they carried out experiments in areas like ergonomics, aerospace medicine, life ecology, biotechnology, material science, fluid physics, and aerospace technology. This marked an important step in the transition of China's manned space program from construction to application and from input to output. Netizens are feeling extremely proud and offering best wishes for the nation to accomplish even greater achievements. Next up, let's turn to Canada. On October 30th, the Canadian government issued a ban on the use of the messaging app WeChat on all government-issued mobile devices. The ban takes effect immediately. Canada's Treasury Board President Anita Anand claimed the move was part of a risk-based approach to cybersecurity while providing no evidence of actual information leaks. Anand asserted that on mobile devices, the data collection methods of WeChat enabled significant access to device content. In response, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin stated during a press conference that WeChat is a social networking platform operated by a private enterprise. The Canadian government's ban on Chinese companies under the pretext of safeguarding data security without any solid evidence is a typical case of generalizing the concept of national security, abusing state power, and justifiably suppressing specific companies from a certain country. China strongly opposes such actions. This is not the first time the Canadian government has cited security risks in targeting foreign apps. In February, it banned TikTok from government devices, similarly claiming potential threats to information security. The impact on WeChat's business operations in Canada remains uncertain. And next up, let's talk about Halloween. Shanghai's Halloween celebration this year sparked debate online as young participants gave the Western holiday a creative Chinese spin. The costumes and impersonation mocking Chinese cultural figures seen at the event across the city generated buzz for their unique take on the tradition. Thousands of costumed youth gathered in downtown Shanghai over the weekend for parties, contests, and Halloween parade. While the usual ghosts and ghouls were present, many chose to dress up as Chinese deities, emperors, celebrities, brands, and internet memes. The innovative costumes were a big hit on social media, where they ignited debate about localizing Western holidays. Some argued the lighthearted spoofs reflect the Chinese youth expressing their creativity, but more conservative voices contended they showed a lack of respect for traditional culture. Regardless of the controversy, the zany Chinese-inspired costumes succeeded in creating buzz and attracted far more attention than previous years. It seems Shanghai's unique brand of Halloween is here to stay. Whether it represents cultural integration or just youthful irreverence depends on who you ask. Next up, let's turn to economy. The Central Financial World Conference was held in Beijing from October 30th to 31st. The conference emphasized that finance is the lifeblood of the national economy and an important part of the country's core competitiveness. It underscored the need to accelerate the construction of a financial powerhouse, comprehensively strengthen financial supervision, improve the financial system, optimize financial services, and prevent and resolve risks. The conference also stressed the unwavering commitment to the path of financial development with Chinese characteristics. It aims to promote high-quality development of China's finance, providing strong support for the comprehensive advancement of building a powerful country with Chinese modernization and great rejuvenation of the nation. Next up, on national security, on October 31st, the Chinese Ministry of State Security announced a widespread crackdown on illegal foreign weather monitoring activities that posed risk to national security. State security officials said over 10 foreign weather equipment vendors were investigated and over 3,000 foreign-linked weather stations inspected nationwide. Hundreds of unauthorized weather sites were found to be illicitly transmitting real-time data abroad. Experts said meteorological information could expose military and state secrets. The foreign-operated sensors, if located near air bases, missile launch sites, and other sensitive facilities, may review activity through changes in atmospheric patterns. Authorities reminded that all weather monitoring in China must adhere to domestic security protocols. The campaign serves as a warning to unauthorized data transfer that infringes on national interests. Netizens support relevant authorities' crackdown actions, and Chinese netizens believe national security must be firmly defended. Last but not least, starting from November 1st, the autonomous region of Guangxi will include certain treatment-related assisted reproductive services, such as egg retrieval procedures, within the payment scope of basic medical insurance and work injury insurance funds. With this move, Guangxi has achieved a breakthrough in insurance reimbursement for assisted reproductive medical services. Women who meet the criteria can now get reimbursed for in vitro fertilization procedures. China is experiencing a significant demographic shift, with its population aging rapidly. Due to a combination of one-child policy, which was in effect from 1979 to 2015, and increasing life expectancy, the proportion of elderly people is rising. As of 2021, the group accounted for nearly 20% of the population and is projected to reach one-third by 2050. The demographic shift poses challenges on multiple fronts. The shrinking workforce could dampen economic growth, while the rising number of retirees puts pressure on the pension system and healthcare resources. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for watching this episode of China Currents. If you have any thoughts and comments about the show, please reach us at the email address below. I'm Kris, and looking forward to hearing from you, and see you next time.
Well, that does it for China Currents. Thank you very kindly for the updates as always, Kris. It's now time for Threshold with Lisa, the segment that focuses on cutting-edge technological innovations that have life-changing potential. This week's episode features the newly created chip by Chinese scientists that can perform AI tasks 3,000 times faster than NVidia's A100. Lisa will also tell you about the scientific roots of traditional Chinese medicine and the anti-aging power of vitamin C in the spinal cord. Stay tuned for more details.
Hi, I'm Lisa and this is Threshold in China. Today we are going to share some exciting tech innovations and announcements that happened in China last week. Just as the US government is imposing new restrictions on the sale of advanced GPUs to China, aiming to hinder its development in AI, researchers from Tsinghua University have achieved a surprising breakthrough. They have developed an all-analog photoelectronic chip that promises to revolutionize high-speed vision tasks. The chip Axel combines electronic and light computing to achieve unprecedented energy efficiency and computing speed for vision-related processes, overtaking the current high-performance AI chips in these critical areas. Traditional digital computing units have long been limited by energy consumption and computing speed when handling vision tasks. Tasks such as image recognition for autonomous driving, robotics, medical diagnosis, and wearable devices require high-resolution imaging, precise classification, and ultra-low latency. Now, by integrating diffractive optical analog computing (OAC) and electronic analog computing (EAC) in a single chip, Axcel achieved remarkable energy efficiency and computing speed. OAC is a method that manipulates the properties of light to perform computations such as its intensity through diffraction. EAC is another approach that uses electronic components to perform calculations in a way that mimics continuous physical quantities. These electronic signals vary in strength and can represent a range of values that is beyond 0 and 1. Both methods offer advantages for specific calculations and contribute to developing high-speed vision tasks. The chip, developed by China's Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corporation (SMIC), achieved a computing speed of 4.6 petaflops in lab tests, with over 99% of the computations performed optically, and this is 3,000 times faster than NVIDIA's A100. Remarkably, it also uses 4 million less energy, so this ultra-low power consumption contributes to easing heat generation issues. Meanwhile, the A100 is subject to trade restrictions imposed by the US, so it cannot be exported to China. This breakthrough by the Tsinghua team holds profound significance as it integrates other high-performance computing techniques with existing electronic information systems. Researchers demonstrated that although the new chip cannot immediately replace those used in devices such as computers or smartphones, it may soon be used in wearable devices, electronic cars, or smart factories and help boost China's competitiveness in mass application of artificial intelligence. For decades, traditional Chinese medicine has been seen through the lens of skepticism, often classified as pseudoscience. But now, researchers have discovered that the principles of traditional Chinese medicine is not that different when compared to contemporary medicine. In this study, researchers conducted a network mapping proteins associated with various symptoms and the target proteins of chemicals found in Chinese herbs. Target proteins are proteins in the human body that the chemicals in a particular Chinese herb can affect or interact with. When you have a symptom, what you can find in your body is a cluster of protein that can cause this discomfort. The team found that the closer the herb's target protein is to the cluster of protein, the more likely the herb is able to treat the symptom based on overlap. For example, the Chinese herb Stellaria root is used to treat fevers. The researchers found that its target proteins are located near proteins associated with fever regulations and inflammation. So, Stellaria root may work by influencing these fever-related processes. By analyzing this protein network, the research team showed the herbs prescribed in traditional Chinese medicine tend to have target proteins near the protein linked to the patient's symptoms. This proximity pattern is highly similar to modern drug-disease relationship, but traditional Chinese medicine figured this out some 3,000 years ago. The team validated the network using medical records from over 1,900 liver cirrhosis patients. While individual herbs have been scientifically studied before, this is the first research substantiating traditional Chinese medicine as a complete system. It provides evidence that this ancient practice may have scientific molecular mechanisms, much like modern pharmacology. In 2015, the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine was awarded to Tu Youyou, a Chinese chemist who discovered a malaria drug derived from a herb used in traditional Chinese medicine. The researchers hope their work will lead to further study and potential new drug discoveries inspired by traditional Chinese medicine. Scientists from the Chinese Academy of Science have revealed how vitamin C protects the spinal cord from aging in primates like monkeys and humans. To explain their findings, let's imagine the spinal cord as the body's main electrical cable. It sends signals that stir everything from movement to sensation. As we age, this cable can wear down and leads to slower communication between the brain and the body's nerve and less function. So what caused the cable to wear down? The researchers pinpointed motor neurons as the most aging-sensitive cells. They mapped out the monkey's spinal landscape using single-cell sequencing and highlighted a new class of microglia growing around aged motor neurons. These cells produce CHIP1 protein, which accumulates like rust, hindering motor neurons with the SMAD signal. Levels of this spinal rust also increased in aged monkeys and humans. Because the spinal cord controls muscles in our body, these insights may explain multi-system aging. Most importantly, the scientists found vitamin C can help to clear out this aging rust. It protects motor neurons from CHIP1's wear and tear. Taking vitamin C supplements for 3 years robustly reversed aging traits in aged monkeys' motor neurons. Likewise, in lab dishes, vitamin C also shielded human motor neurons from CHIP1's damage. Targeting CHIP1 could yield new treatment for deteriorating conditions like ALS. Research efforts are ongoing to understand the underlying mechanisms and develop potential treatments. How do carbohydrates fit into a healthy diet? Central Cells University in China carried out a research that links the amount of carb we eat to a protein called clotho, known for its connection to aging and health. They used data from over 10,000 American adults and discovered that too few or too many carbs are tied to lower clotho levels, while moderate carbohydrates showed the highest protein levels. The optimal range for carbohydrate intake was found to be between 48.92% and 56.2% of the total energy intake. Shanghai Jiaotong University also carried out a research on special type of carb known as the enter-resistant starch, RS. It is found in cold potatoes, rice, beans, and whole grains. It is unique because it bypasses digestion in the small intestine and ferments in the large intestine, serving as fuel for gut bacteria and produce compounds that help regulate metabolism and reduce liver fat. Researchers discovered that RS can effectively reduce liver fat in patients with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease by modifying the microbiome. NAFLD affects a staggering number of people worldwide, with no approved pharmacological treatments available. In a 4-month clinical trial, individuals with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease were given RS. The reduction in liver fat was independent of weight loss, meaning that even without shedding pounds, the participants benefited from RS consumption. Food rich in resistant starches can be easily introduced in everyday meals. These findings emphasizes the significance of a balanced diet in promoting a healthy condition and underscore the potential of everyday food choices in disease prevention and management. And that is all for today's Threshold. We hope you like this new section on science and technology in China, and as usual, we welcome your feedback and thoughts.
Now let's turn to Thinkers Forum, where our scholars and thinkers will be sharing with us their brightest ideas about China and its relations with the rest of the world. Our very first speaker for this segment is Senator Mushaid Hussain Said, Chairman of the Senate Defense Committee and Pakistan-China Institute.
Greetings from Islamabad, Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me. And it's also my special pleasure to be focusing on the role of the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, and Pakistan-China relations, which have been a pivotal segment of BRI in the context of the theme of the conference, focusing on the next decade, China and the changing global landscape. Ladies and gentlemen, the coming decade is a turbulent decade, but it is also a transformative decade. Let's see what some of the world leaders have focused on recently in their statements. President Xi Jinping has said that we are witnessing once-in-a-century changes which are unique. President Putin has termed it as the most dangerous decade. President Biden has said this is the most decisive decade. And the Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz, in his recent article which he wrote in the American publication Foreign Affairs, said that we are witnessing epochal tectonic changes in the world. And perhaps one of the most important statements regarding the transformation in the global landscape was made by the President of France, Monsieur Macron, who said last year, and I quote, 300 years of Western hegemony is coming to an end. And that is the crux of the change, where we see the global balance of power shifting from the West to the East. The 21st century is said to be the Asian century. And we are seeing the peaceful development and the peaceful rise of China. And if I may say so, also we are witnessing the decline of the West. The West, in my view, includes Europe and the United States of America. So this is the global landscape, the changing global scenario. And on that we focus on the Belt and Road Initiative, which was celebrating 10 years, launched by President Xi Jinping as the most important developmental and diplomatic initiative of the 21st century, which now includes over 140 countries, so many organizations. And we are very proud of the fact in Pakistan that the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, is the pivot, is the pillar, is the success story of BRI in the last 10 years, generating 85,000 jobs, promoting unity in Pakistan through development, people-centered development in different provinces of the Federation of Pakistan, empowering women, giving hope to the youth, giving employment to the poor, and developing Pakistan forward in energy, in infrastructure, in agriculture, in industry, in education. And we feel that China's investment of approximately $26 billion in the CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, has been very important. We have a new port in the Arabian Sea, the Kwabla port, which is building up connectivity. And we have closer connections developing with Central Asian republics who seek an outlet to the sea through the BRI. And the BRI is not a one-off initiative. It has been supported, it has been supplemented by the Global Development Initiative launched by President Xi, the Global Security Initiative, and now, last March, and I was one of those who was witness to that on 16th of March, when at the high-level meeting organized by the Communist Party of China on political parties, President Xi Jinping announced the Global Civilization Initiative. All of these, what do they indicate? A worldview based on equality, based on diversity, based on inclusivity, connecting cultures, commerce, continents, countries, civilizations. That is what is needed by global humanity as we come out of the pandemic, as we are facing challenges like climate change, which are collective challenges requiring a common approach, not an approach based on conflict, on confrontation. Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing two divergent worldviews, values, and perhaps way of looking at the system. China's march towards modernization, promoting globalization, is based on, rooted in its strategic culture, what I call its strategic culture, its history, whether it's the Silk Road, which was the first instance of globalization through commerce and culture 2,000 years ago, whether it's the Great Wall, which was protective and defensive against foreign aggression, whether it's the Long March, in which the People's Liberation Army survived and surmounted, and it shows China's patience, persistence, and perseverance, or whether it's the century of humiliation, where China faced after 1840, the Opium War, foreign domination, foreign control. And China then decided that never again would they allow any compromise on its dignity, unity, territorial integrity, and sovereignty. And these are values which are common to us in the global south. But we are very concerned at the world today because there are two different views, two different perspectives. China is talking of modernization and marching forward on that platform. The West, especially the United States, is talking of militarization of international relations, whether it's Asian NATO, whether it's the new Camp David where they involve Japan and South Korea, whether it's the Quad, whether it's AUKUS. They're building a new infrastructure. They are building barriers through sanctions, through tariffs, through protectionism. China is building bridges of connectivity, whether it is the rapprochement between Iran and Saudi Arabia, whether it's the recent summit at BRICS in Johannesburg, which I attended, especially the seminar on global governance and people-to-people contacts. And then China is talking of connectivity and cooperation, while the West, even the G7, and especially the United States, are talking of confrontation, conflict, and containment. Ladies and gentlemen, we in Pakistan reject any notion of a new Cold War, reject any notion of containment. These are irrelevant, outmoded concepts in the 21st century. The 21st century is about connectivity, about peace, about cooperation, and about building a better tomorrow with no overlords and no underdogs.
Now, next speaker on the Thinkers Forum is Boris Tadic, the former president of Serbia, who spoke during the thematic forum on think tank exchange of the Third Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation. Let's take a listen to his submissions during the forum.
We are living in totally unpredictable world. Why I'm saying this? A very simple example. Only one day before what happened in Israel and the atrocities committed by Hamas, and after that by Israeli state, no one was able to predict that event and what happened. No one in global community. In United Nations, where we were in September this year, in every global arena and think tanks, no one was even mentioning what is going to be in Israel. The question is, what is going to surprise us tomorrow? Which kind of horrible events and development are going to affect all of us tomorrow and after tomorrow? In that context, stable initiatives, visionary initiatives are crucially important for the peace and development of the world in the future. In that context, especially, Initiative Belt and Road is one of the very few in global arena in past few decades that is helping to everyone. Not only China, but every single country which is on that direction. Let's remind ourselves about current situation in global arena. War in Ukraine is only outcome of the different wars that happened in the past few years. Before that, we had a war in Iraq, war in Syria, war in Libya. And this is crystal clear that new world orders are going to be outcome of the consequences of that wars. Different conflicting zones and different wars that are going to happen in some regions. This is crystal clear that new world order that we need right now are going to be, once again, outcome of the balance of the power. And this is crystal clear that even new world order that has to be established for the generations that are coming are going to be faced with many, many problems and many, many difficulties. Why? Because we have a policy of double standards which is existing for decades and years in the multilateral institutions, unfortunately, and specifically that double standards policy is, in fact, the leading idea among the big powers for decades. If we have a double standards, we cannot talk about principles that are foundation of the world orders and that has to be foundation of the world nowadays, and that has to be foundation of our common relations and bilateral and multilateral relations. The policy of double standards is destroying the world nowadays. We have to be focused on that policy of standards that has to be implemented in the global arena in a very efficient and very principled way. Dear friends, we have a new situation which is also outcome not only of the war, but also of the fast and extremely specific development of China and some other countries. China has been saving the world during the economic crisis. Chinese economy, which was unbelievable, 10 and 12% growth, was a saving world because China was a driving force of global economy. Can you imagine the world nowadays without such impact of China in global arena? At the same time, reforms that China has been implementing from the end of the 1970s until today has been also crucially important regarding stability of the world nowadays. I'm always mentioning, can you imagine that China didn't create fantastic process in terms of eradication from the poverty of more than 800 million people? Can you imagine the world nowadays with the threat of migrations that are coming from China? China is nowadays a developed country, not developed enough, but really stable and developed country. But can you imagine the world nowadays with 800 million people that are deeply anchored in the poverty, Chinese people that are creating specific threats in terms of migration to the Western world? China, with its own reforms, also was saving the world nowadays. And this is why China deserves respect and support in the global community today. In that respect, I'm taking into consideration the idea of the Belt and Road Initiative. Belt and Road Initiative is a very specific and very unique aspect of multilateralism, specifically in the situation when United Nations are losing credibility and United Nations are not able anymore, like it was in the future, in the past, to be crucial global multilateral institution. In that respect, we need more multilateral initiatives that are going to help United Nations to take over once again credibility and to be a leading institution in the world in terms of multilateralism. In one article, I was writing about the Chinese way of modernization. And let me emphasize once again what I thought as a main contribution to modernization in the world nowadays. In the context of the Western modernization is always in the focus only how to create new wealth and new technical improvement. But Chinese way of modernization, from my point of view, is more harmonization. Harmonization is specifically very important for the world today. Without harmonization, we are going to be focused with more tensions and more conflicts in the future. I specifically see Belt and Road initiatives in the context of harmonization. Many people are criticizing China because of Belt and Road initiative, because China is offering the loans to the poor countries, and China is bringing those countries in a very difficult debt crisis. I totally disagree with that. China has a great opportunity to create tremendous change in the global arena by harmonizing international relations. But China cannot do that without harmonization of its own economy, its own society. This is why China has a huge responsibility nowadays. China is hope. We've been living in the world where the United States in the Western world was a hope. Nowadays, China is hope. In that respect, harmonization that has to be in the focus of Chinese reforms in the future is crucially important. Harmonization in terms of green economy, harmonization in terms of education, harmonization in terms of international relations with other countries. Harmonization has to be foundation of the Belt and Road Initiative. Harmonization in international relations. Without such approach, we are going to be faced with more atrocities and more conflicts in the future. In that respect, I really appreciate and really respect what is Chinese contribution to the global arena and global politics nowadays. I just wanted to underline once again, specifically, issue of modernization, which is a great chance, not only for China, but also for the whole world. Dear friends, in that respect, I have to mention something which is specifically characterizing the Chinese initiatives in the world nowadays. Belt and Road Initiatives was pointed out and launched in 2013. This year, on G20, was pointed out idea of the global corridor, new global corridor, by United States, India, Saudi Arabia, Emirates, and European Union countries. This is idea this is coming 10 years after Belt and Road Initiative, 10 years later. Very interesting. Last year in European Union that was pointed out idea to help Eastern economies with a significant financial help, huge financial help. But that is coming 10 years after Chinese impact in Eastern countries that created tremendous success in building infrastructure and creating new potentials for Eastern countries. That means that the Western world is coming 10 years later after China in many, many aspects and initiatives in the world, which is not very healthy for global economy and the global relations nowadays. But in that respect, we have to understand China has a really, really specific responsibility in the global arena, having in mind the initiatives and the actions that China is taking into the account, and China is triggering, and that initiatives are also very, very important regarding development many, many different countries. And I'm finishing my thoughts with a kind of suggestions for my Chinese friends. This is 10 years after the idea of Belt and Road was launched in the international arena. I think that China has to be very careful with the impacts of Belt and Road Initiative. China has to take into the consideration all negative impacts, not only positive impacts, to learn from mistakes and to make corrections. If Chinese government, Chinese leadership are going to make a kind of corrections, I think that Belt and Road Initiative can be one of the most significant historical achievements in a global arena. Thank you very much for your attention.
And that's all for the show today. My name is Stanley Kwabla Arku. Please send in your comments, thoughts, and feedbacks through the email provided below. Thanks for watching.